Chapter 10. Rain. Coyote runs ahead of her, his blond plume of a tail waving. She follows, climbing the trail between the trees easily, both legs moving smoothly, fast. She's not carrying a spider stick because there are no spiders, just the clear, bright air. Not like summer, like the perfect days of spring, or fall maybe, except that the leaves haven't turned color. When she reaches the top of the hill, she breaks into a run, amazed at the freedom of it, dodging low-hanging branches and weaving in and out between trees and stands of Russian olive, until she and Coyote are side by side, emerging together into the sunlight. They're in a huge granite boulder overlooking the lake, the glitter of the water, the sweep of the sky stretching before them. Charlie sits on the edge, her legs dangling over toward the water below, and Coyote sits a little way away, too far to touch, but closer than he's ever been. He turns to look at her, his eyes intent on her face, his ears pointed sharply forward. The sun makes diamonds on the lake as a breeze ruffles the water. Listen. Her heart leaps. It is her mother's voice, coming from directly behind her. Listen! Charlie turns to see her mother. There is nothing there but the rough granite of the boulder, the pale green circles of lichen. Charlie opens her eyes to dull gray light. Rain pounds steadily on the roof. She holds the sheet tight against her chin, wishing she could go back to the dream, back to the moment she heard her mother's voice, clear and real, and not a memory, the moment she believed her mother had come back, was really there. No good. Even if she could get that moment back, there would inevitably be the next, when she turned and saw the empty stretch of granite. Stupid to have been tricked into believing, even in a dream. There is no clearing in the woods above the lake, no boulder like the one she and Coyote were sitting on, and no way for her mother to come back. The clock says 8:32. She has slept later than she has in weeks. There is no sun to filter through the blinds and wake her. Coyote will be wondering where she is. Charlie has never thought about having to walk the trail in the rain. The drought has gone on so long, she's almost forgotten the possibility of rain. Already she is late. She should be at the Davises by now, starting back. She gets out of bed, goes to the window, looks out between the slats of the blind. It is like peering into a deep green jungle through a curtain of silvery beads. What she can see is the sky. What she can see of the sky is leaden. No clouds form moving, no scraps of blue giving hope for clearing. It is day 19 of the taming, Saturday, Sarita's day off. She can hear her father in the kitchen banging things. It's the way he always is in the kitchen, slamming cupboard doors, clanging silverware, smacking bowls or plates on the counter as if he's mad at them. He can make the opening of a box of cereal sound like small arms fire. This isn't what he used to be like when he and her mother sometimes worked together to make wonderful special dinners. He always did the meat dish, her mother the vegetables and salad. What he wants now, Charlie thinks, is for someone else to be doing all of it, whatever has to be done. He hates cooking now, hates having to think about food except to eat it, hates having to clean up afterward. If he could have hired Sarita 24/7, he would have, so that he would never, ever have to set foot in the kitchen. Before the accident, Charlie used to shoo him out on Sarita's days off sometimes and do it herself, even the cleanup. Breakfast and lunch were easy, cereal, sandwiches, whatever. And there was enough stuff she'd learned to make, tuna casserole, macaroni and cheese, hot dogs and beans, to get them through dinner once or even twice a week. Since March, he's had to do Saturdays himself. Charlie could take over in the kitchen again now, and she knows it. He knows it too, and the banging is getting louder. But he hasn't ordered Charlie to do it, or even asked her. Until he does, she isn't going to volunteer. She writes the number 19 on the calendar and dresses for the walk. She can't expect Coyote not to eat just because it's raining. As she laces her hiking boots, she wonders what the dog is doing in the rain, where he has gone for shelter. His place under the sweet gum isn't really a den. The leaves overhead are the only protection. From the sound of the rain on the roof, that won't be worth much today. The image of him huddled, nose to tail, rises in her mind. His ears are tipped sideways, and he's lying beneath something that doesn't provide the cover he needs. She watches a thin stream of water fall into his forehead and run down his nose. "Are you going out?" Dad asks when she gets to the kitchen. He's leaning against the counter, eating a piece of toast. Charlie nods and gets out a bowl for cereal. Coyote needs to eat. Seems to me if he's all that hungry, he should be coming around to get his food on his own by now. It's been, 3 weeks? 19 days. Her father pours himself a second cup of coffee and bangs the empty pot back into the coffee maker. You sure this is going to work? I'm sure. She isn't. Not really. You shouldn't walk that trail when the weather's like this. It's only rain, Charlie says. As she says the words, they become a kind of echo. It's only rain. Her mother used to say that whenever she set off for the woods with cameras under her yellow slicker. Her mother loved the way the world looked on a day like this. Eventually, there was a whole series of photos. Soft colors, misty air, silvery drops on the tips of leaves. Rainy day Carolina. The series won an award somewhere. Charlie concentrates on pouring cereal into her bowl, getting out the milk, pouring it, putting it back into the refrigerator. Cereal, milk, eating, breathing in and out, chewing, swallowing, staying focused, she reminds herself firmly. No remembering. How long will you be? Paul Morgan asks, his voice carefully light, as if he has no particular interest in the answer. About an hour. Why? Well, Mrs. Jensen's gone to the mountains. She can't come to stay with you, and I need to go to the office. Of course he does. Well, you can go. Not while you're out in the woods by yourself. You could slip and fall. You could hurt myself, she finishes for him. I hurt all the time. Even without looking, she can feel him wince. She probably ought to be sorry, but she isn't. Why shouldn't he feel bad about running away to his office on Saturday for never being there? You don't have to worry about me. I'll be fine. Her father looks out the window and sips his coffee. I'll stay here till you get back. I just need to go in for a few hours. I'll stop on the way home and get takeout for dinner. Charlie grins into her cereal bowl. These days, her father even manages to bang styrofoam boxes. She considers, briefly, taking an umbrella. But if Coyote doesn't like walking sticks, she's pretty sure an umbrella would freak him out. She wears her slicker instead. Before she gets as far as Mr. Garrison's, where Jasmine and Bernie are holed up in the twin doghouses, not even barking as she passes, she is sweating under the slicker. She takes down the hood and lets the cool rain fall on her hair and face. The world really is different on a day like this, she thinks. There is a new smell, almost a taste to the air. The colors are softened, the edge of things are blurred. Only sound is sharper. The family of 5 geese honking from their water could be right there on the trail with her. Mrs. Jensen says the geese are the pair that raised 3 goslings on the lake last year, back again with their whole family. No one could know this for sure, Charlie thinks. How could it be that wild things born here can fly away to another part of the world and come back again, not having been shot by hunters, caught by foxes, hit by lightning? When Charlie gets to the road and whistles, Sadie doesn't come running. Coyote isn't under his tree. She sees that neither of the Davises' cars is in the driveway, and Sadie is chained on the side deck. She's lying up under the eaves, out of the wet. Where's Coyote? Charlie calls. Sadie comes to the end of the chain and barks, her tail wagging eagerly. She seems to have no problem with the prospect of a walk in the rain. As Charlie starts down the driveway, Coyote crawls out from beneath the picnic table in the side yard. He is drenched, his fur darkened and muddy. The picnic table, its boards spaced half an inch apart, has offered little shelter from the rain overhead, and none at all from the water running down the yard toward the lake. He shakes himself, spraying mud and water, and then waits at the edge of the woods for Sadie to be released. It's only rain, Charlie tells herself, but Coyote looks awful, miserable. Shelter, she calls to him. I'm offering you food and shelter. Remember that. He wants both, she thinks. From the tilt of his ears, it is clear he doesn't like rain any more than he likes swimming. Once they start the walk, though, Coyote and Sadie pay no attention to the rain. They bound off on one side of the trail and then the other, doubling back and charging ahead, bumping into each other from time to time the way they do when they're playing. After a while, Coyote disappears on some journey of his own. Charlie listens, hoping to be able to hear where he has gone. There is something about this day that makes her want him with her. Close, safe, but there is no holding him. She has passed the worst of the steep, slippery part of the trail, moving from handhold to handhold, has ducked under the limbo tree, and is heading across the ridge of the ridge of the hill, when she catches her foot in a vine and falls, landing full length in a patch of poison ivy with such force that the breath is knocked out of her. For a moment everything seems to stop except the pain in her leg and the steady fall of the rain. It's only rain. When she's able to breathe again, Charlie discovers with a jolt of surprise that she is crying. Tears are sliding down her cheeks, the only difference between rain and tears, the warmth of the tears. Sadie comes back along the trail and nudges her with her nose. "Leave me alone," Charlie says. She tries to blink back the tears, but they are flowing faster now. She doesn't know why she is crying, but she needs to make it stop. She folds her arms beneath her head and puts her forehead on the wetness of her slicker. It's yellow bright against the deep green of the ivy leaves. She squeezes her eyes as tightly shut as she can, willing the tears away. "Stop it! Now!" She swallows hard, and little by little the tears begin to slow. When at last the wetness on her face is just the rain, she lies very still, breathing and counting, breathing and counting. She feels Sadie's nose against her neck and turns her head to tell her to go away. It isn't Sadie. For the space of a single breath, Coyote's nose is an inch from hers. His dark eyes meet hers. "Listen! Listen!" Charlie reaches a hand toward Coyote, and he backs hurriedly away. Still, there is no taking back what just happened. He has touched her, dog to human, spirit to spirit. She can still feel his nose on her neck. She pushes her hair out of her eyes with a muddy hand. "Listen!" It is what her mother used to say when she sat, camera in hands, Charlie on the ground nearby, waiting for the right light, the perfect puff of wind, a bird or a squirrel or the lizard to venture into view. Charlie listens now, the way she used to when her mother told her to. She can hear the rain on the leaves over her head, on the ground around her. She hears a stir of wind, a bird calling across the lake, Sadie moving in the soggy leaf litter down the hill. She doesn't know now any more than she knew then what it is she is listening for, what her mother wanted her to hear. She sits up, rubs her hands on her wet jeans, and then, with the help of a hickory sapling, drags herself to her feet. Coyote is ahead of her on the trail, moving slowly, his bedraggled tail waving in the rain. "Coyote!" she calls. He glances over his shoulder and goes on. "Thank you," she says. "Thank you."